We want to make sure we get your feedback before we submit our budget to City Council. We'll present that in July, so we have some months to review what folks would like to see us put our time and attention and our budget toward. The City Council has to review that and pass whatever version of that that's going to pass by the end of September. So the city's budget year starts October 1st and it runs through September 30th. So this is a perfect time for us to sit down and talk over budget priorities and what you'd like to see. So there are 3 questions that we ask ourselves for each budget item. Will it bring the greatest return on investment for our citizens? Will it support Jacksonville's fast growth in a sustainable way? Will it improve the quality of life for everyone in our city? We are focused on prioritizing the vital projects that deliver the best return for you. Many people are moving here because of our low cost of living. I know sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but compared to everybody else around the state and most of the people in the country, we have a very low cost of living and a high quality of life here, as I'm sure you would agree. We want to keep it that way. So we invest in programs that make our residents healthier, happier, safer, and more prosperous. That's the goal. We passed an agreement that will renovate our city-owned stadium and turn it into the stadium of the future. Don't know if you saw, we welcomed our new general manager for the Jaguars to the city today. I think collectively that team may not be as old as me, I'm not sure. But they are in fact now the youngest coaching and management team in the NFL. I'm not sure one of them is outside of their 30s, outside of Mark Lamping, who is what is Mark's role? President of the Jaguars. He said he existed today to simply bring the age average up a little bit, which I appreciated. We're excited that also as part of that Stadium of the Future agreement, that with the help of the City Council, we really were able to take $300 million and put it into a community benefits agreement. It was the largest amount of money the NFL has ever agreed to invest in a community benefit agreement. We were very, very grateful for that. It makes generational investments into workforce development, affordable housing, and homelessness programs. It will also complete our world-class parks. So we're very, very excited about that because we believe those parks really will increase our quality of life. The number of people without health insurance in Jacksonville was reduced by 34% through our Get Covered Jacks campaign last year. Our HealthLink Jacks telehealth program for the uninsured has saved $1.1 million in emergency room costs and made more than 2,600 patient connections for folks who really need health care, but we really would prefer they didn't show up in the emergency room unless they need to. And so that's been a very successful program so far, and we hope folks will continue to use it. River City Readers. Boy, has been and continues to be an incredibly successful program. When we came in, we were very concerned about the number of children that were not reading at a 3rd grade level. And we know that when that happens, those kids tend to end up getting into trouble. They certainly are not set up for a successful life. Their quality of life simply isn't as good. And so we set a goal of 300,000 minutes to get our kids to read in the past year. Well, they blew past that in a few weeks. So we reset the goal, and then we reset the goal again, and then we reset the goal again. And as we approached the end of the year, we were at almost 3 million minutes read across the city. So that's been an incredibly successful program. And so much so, the Lucy Gooding Foundation decided to donate a bookmobile for us that we are now taking around the city and providing free books for kids. They get to pick out their own book, depending on their age. We took the bookmobile to Highlands last weekend. Boy, I'll tell you what, those kids they couldn't believe they got to go in there. It was like Disneyland for them. They walked in and saw all these books and they got to grab one. Anyway, the whole thing is to make sure that we instill a love of reading for our children, because we know that truly that old adage that readers are leaders is really true. So we're excited about the excitement around that program. And another thing we're doing, partnering with Duval County Public Schools, which really sort of works in tandem with the literacy program, is a program called Show Up to Shine, and that is to encourage our children to actually attend school. We've had an attendance problem really since the pandemic, and we're trying to get all the kids we can back in school because they'll learn better that way. So that's another program that we're working on with DCPS. Emerald Trail, in partnership with JTA and Groundwork Jacks, we opened the first segment We won the largest federal grant in our city's history, $147 million. And this is a 30-mile trail that's going to connect all of our historic neighborhoods to downtown and create opportunities for small businesses, not to mention the health benefits of getting people out and moving. We committed $2 million to the city's down payment assistance program, excuse me, which helps 27 first-time home buyers close on their new homes. Oh boy, I already need my water. That's not good. Let's see, where am I here? And 23 more families are in the process of closing right now. We hope to support another 30 to 40 in the coming year. Police and fire. We finalized historic union agreements with higher salaries and the return to a defined benefit for our first responders. It allows us to recruit and retain the best and brightest to keep our citizens healthy and safe. And we were really, really fortunate, again, to work with the City Council to get that passed. We think it's incredibly important for our first responders to have what they need. It's a big city, very big city. And it also, when you invest more in fire stations and create more opportunities for people to be closer to those services, it also reduces their insurance costs as well. So another big important thing about making sure that we're making those investments. And I'll tell you also that we're hearing from both the chief and the sheriff that it really has helped recruiting, which is obviously something that we want. We continue to make the necessary investments that will keep our citizens safe and healthy. JFRD will see more than $28 million in construction of new fire stations, so that response times do continue to decrease. Like I said, that also affects insurance costs. The budget provides 40 additional officers on the streets, part of our plan to add 200 officers over 4 years. When it comes to making housing more affordable, I don't know if you just saw the new UNF poll that came out. Not that it's a surprise to most of you, but affordable housing and homeowners insurance were the top two concerns for the folks who responded to that poll. Jacksonville will have nearly 4,000 new affordable housing units completed by the end of this year because of our focus on addressing this challenge. We also have launched the JFRD PATH program. It's a homelessness outreach team, and it increases the number of beds in our shelters as well to reduce homelessness and comply with the new state law that bans public camping. Those outreach teams go out, they connect people to services, they try to do everything they can to make sure that people get the wraparound services they need so we can get them back into the community, being productive citizens, so that we're not just recycling people from one neighborhood to the next. So we're very excited about that program. Where am I? Let's see. We increased the number of Jacksonville small and emerging businesses by 30%, and we grew the number of contracts awarded to them by $22 million year over year. We're spending millions to attract new companies and create more good-paying jobs for our citizens. As of course you know, time is money in business. Time is money for everything, right? With major investments in people, processes, and technology, and thanks to Wanyoni over here and her team, they've just done an amazing job of cutting the time it takes for a permit to be marked as finalized. It's been cut to 40 days. It used to be 100. So that was a pretty big improvement. The city's new online permitting system, which was created in-house by our teams, amazing, has cut wait times for permit approvals by a third. So, and that's, where are we in terms of rolling that out into commercial? Are we there yet?
We're kicking off the civil plans, in fact, this week, Nina.
Okay, awesome. In addition to our River City Readers program, we already talked about Show Up to Shine. I got to that one early. We committed $5.4 million to after-school literacy, artists, civic engagement, and work programs for youth. Our investment in pools ensured that we had the repairs and lifeguards in place to open all of our city pools, when only half were open last year. Combined, these programs keep our youth engaged and on the path to a successful life, which reduces crime and helps to strengthen our workforce. A few projects that are out in this area. Chafee Road improvements, that is still in design phase right now. This project will improve truck safety by expanding lanes from 10 feet to 12 feet and add 6-foot shoulders. The project also includes a multi-use path and a sidewalk that will help connect the Baldwin Trail to the Cecil Commerce Center in Clay County. The project will significantly increase pedestrian safety, which is another big priority for us, all of that in western Duval County. The project is currently proceeding to 90% design phase, and we anticipate construction to begin late this year. Fairground relocation, that is also in the design process. It's a design-build project that will allow for the relocation of the Jacksonville Fair from its current location in downtown Jacksonville to the west side. The move will allow the construction of state-of-the-art facilities, improved layout, increased parking capacity, and more. Construction started in April of 2023 and is expected to be completed in summer of 2026, not 2016, 2026. Old Middleburg Road improvements, phase 1. I'm sure you have heard about this one. We did a groundbreaking on that earlier, I guess last year actually. $16.5 million in this project. It will widen the existing Old Middleburg Road from 2 to 4 or 5 lanes in some areas, with improved drainage and traffic signals from Argyle Forest Boulevard to 103rd Street. Construction on the northern portion of the project, phase 1, 103rd to Parman Road, that began in October of 2024, and it is currently anticipated to be completed in October of this year. Phase 2 will widen the remainder of the corridor from Argyle Forest Boulevard to Parman Road and is expected to begin at the conclusion of phase 1. All right, that's enough of me. Now it's your turn. I would love to hear what your priorities are. Whatever you want to talk about, love to keep it budget oriented if possible. But there's not that many people here, so you do you tonight. And just remember, if you have something specific that you'd like for us to address for you personally, please just make sure you give a card to one of our staff. So what are we going to do, Phil? We're going to ask people to line up at this mic, is that, or just wherever? Where we got 2 mics, or we just, or Phil can run around and just, since we don't have very many folks here, Phil will just come bring the microphone to you. And if you would just say your name and tell me your issue.
You want to raise your hand for us? Who's first?
Oh, come on. Somebody had a question, I know.
I had a question, but I think that Mr. Lady might working on it. So I don't think I can bring it up now.
Okay.
Before you leave, we'll talk to this, so don't go nowhere.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about widening all these lanes and for security for the sidewalk, for pedestrians. Why did they make 103rd and Timaquana went from a 6-lane to a 4-lane and put a black route there? Nobody ever rides a bicycle up down Timaquana. They'd be crazy to do that.
Well, I think when you talk about, issues of road diets, and I'm sure Nina can talk more about this, it really does come down to trying to make the road safer. We have been really sort of famous for being near the top of the list for pedestrian deaths. And we want to turn some of our roadways that tend to be, speedways or where we have a lot of pedestrian accidents into places where pedestrians can feel safer. But Nina, if you want to expand on that, you're certainly welcome to do so.
You did a great job. As Mayor mentioned, doing a road diet has 2 purposes. One is, of course, to provide those facilities for the pedestrians and bicyclists. But the other is those types of facilities help to slow down traffic and increase safety. So by giving an environment that isn't multiple lanes and very wide lanes, it helps people to view the corridor as not a speedway, but it's a way where you're looking out for different modes, and it helps to typically improve safety, not only for pedestrians and bicyclists, but also for vehicles because of the slower speeds.
I can tell you one of the complaints we get in almost every single one of these town halls is people are extraordinarily frustrated at the speed at which people are going down their streets. And there's just, we can't have an officer on every corner. I wish we could, but we can't. And so sometimes road diets are very effective at that whole issue. I am a fan of being able to use a road diet when we possibly can. But that's the answer to that question.
No over, what, 5, 6 lanes?
Yeah, there's different things for different roads.
As congested as 103rd and Timaquana are. And I know it's not in over, but I know y'all don't care about it now.
Oh, no, we do care, but I think the traffic engineers take a look at those areas and they decide what is the best approach for each area. I'm sure that all of us would probably take exception with some of it, but I can't tell you why. I can tell you the one on Middleburg Road has been in process for a very long time.
I know. I was born and raised.
So you were probably a baby when they first started the Middleburg Road process. Baptist for me.
You mentioned during your presentation that the two issues that most folks said was their highest priority. One of them was property insurance and something else.
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing. And then you went to something else. That kind of threw me. I don't know what did the survey.
I was trying to explain why we are investing so much attention into those issues, to affordable housing. We don't really have a whole lot of sway over what happens with insurance costs. But in terms of affordable housing, we have tried to put a lot of assets into trying to make sure we have more affordable housing units, and especially workforce housing for folks like our first responders and our teachers and folks that really are finding themselves priced out of a lot of what is out there right now. So we're putting a great deal of focus into trying to create programs not only to help with things like down payment or roofs, but to make sure that we have an inventory that will bring those prices down.
Well, you said you were born and raised here.
Yes, sir.
I know you were. How long has the San Marco area been considered a flood zone?
I would say as long as I can remember.
Me too. So now all of a sudden, the city, with the tax dollars, those people bought that property at a discount with it being a flood zone. And now they want the city to come in there and fix it. So that'll make the worth of the home a lot more. So why spend tax dollars on something? They spent $50,000 on a house. It's going to be worth $150 or $200 when the city goes in there and fixes it for them.
Well,
that will revolve river.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying, riverfront property has always been popular, right? It's only been recently, I think, that we've had a real grasp, though, in terms of where people should and should not build. When I say, I'm talking about data-driven information that we can share with developers and others. We are absolutely, we have developed a 50-year resilience plan, which includes things that we need to do to create zoning changes so that we're no longer building in places that are going to be likely to flood. We're talking with the development community on creating incentives for them to build in places that make a whole lot more sense. So we're trying to move forward. There's not a lot we can do about neighborhoods that were built, many years ago. But what we try to do for every neighborhood that we can is create an opportunity for people to continue to live in their homes. At some point, we go in and we say, like there has been certain places in St. Nicholas, which you've probably seen, where we've gone in and we said, well, buy your homes because you can't live here anymore. We've tried to do that in a number of neighborhoods. Sometimes people don't want to sell their homes. But when you're talking about an entire area along the river, I think to put in a pump station or something to keep that water from trying to head over the banks of the river is not an unreasonable request. Beyond that, we are certainly not encouraging people to build in those areas anymore.
It's the same way with Revolt River. You want to buy all them homes. Evidently, someone don't want to sell.
That's exactly right. Over off of Ken Knight Drive, we've tried to buy those homes so many times. And we've had success with 2 or 3. But the problem for those folks is they're renters. And a lot of people that have those homes own them and rent them, so they don't want to sell them because they're making money on them. So you have folks that are sort of...
Well, let them deal with the problem.
Sort of
stuff. If they don't want them about, then let them stay there.
Yeah. It's just, it's a safety issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, who's next?
Somebody over here?
Good evening.
Hi, what's your name?
This is Shamari Lewis.
Hi, Shamari.
Madam Mayor, thank you for doing this because a lot of times every other Tuesday at City Hall doesn't really work for our personal schedule. So thank you for bringing it to the people.
You bet.
So I just have a couple of things. I don't see my councilwoman here. So this is it.
She was here last time.
Yeah, we had this meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I was sick. And I think we had about 150 people here, and I think a lot of people
So that's the footage.
probably
I saw.
didn't get the message that I was coming back tonight. We tried to put it out, but I think people showed up on the first night. I wasn't here, and I just wanted to make sure I came back in the event that people wanted to talk.
Thank you for doing so. I was out of town. So I just have a couple things. We closed on our home in 22, and there are 5 new builds on the lot, and we're happy with our location. But they we're on a well, and we have the septic system.
Mhm.
So it's just very curious about how we can be phasing them out in one part of town, but then code is still aligned for them in existing parts of town. That bewilders me.
This has been a little nail underneath my fingernail for so many years. I can't even begin to tell you how much I want to get rid of those septic tanks.
Yeah.
We have made it a priority to try to speed up the process, and I can tell you that it is moving. But at the end of the day, it has to be prioritized. There's so many, and it's so expensive and it's such an invasive process that what we try to do is we try to go in order of where are the septic tanks that are closest to the water, that are seeping into the river, that are causing a health hazard, and we start with those and we move along. I think we have a list. We have a list someplace of all the neighborhoods that are currently under construction, right, Nina?
Yes.
You want to speak to that?
Well, I'd like to meet with them and talk
Offline?
about.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, but it absolutely is a priority for me. When I came in, it was one of the first things that I said to the folks at JEA. I said, why? Why do we have all this money that we've allocated for septic tank removal and it's moving so slow? And at the time, I think supply chain had a lot to do with it.
Sure.
But I think also it is a matter of, it is a laborious and time-consuming process, and there's only so many you can get to in a certain year.
Sure.
So you start with the ones that are the most troublesome, and you move from there. It really doesn't have anything to do with neglecting any neighborhood over another. It's going by, which are the ones that are in the worst shape. Now, if I had my way, we wouldn't have any more of those things that were being put in the ground, but we still do in some areas.
Can we prevent the new builds from having them so that we're not repeating a cycle?
Listen, I would like to tell you that we can, but the thing is, we continue to build in areas where we don't have the proper infrastructure yet.
Right.
Which is it's a continuing conversation that we're having in our development community, and this is one of the reasons that we're trying to have these conversations. And one of the reasons we're focused on zoning changes now too. We really want to drive development to the areas that already have the built-in infrastructure and that need the growth.
Sure.
But we are a big sprawly city at the moment, and it certainly is one of my goals to try to help us at least focus some energy on trying to bring infill into the neighborhoods that really could use the growth and have the infrastructure.
Sure. Do you remember just a couple weeks ago when there was this thing in Riverside with the couple in the car and they were arguing and they put the baby outside the car and the car hit the baby?
I sure do. How could I forget that?
So it just brings me to mind that the people we're encountering on a daily basis, they're under the influence, but they're not under the influence of alcohol, and that's why we don't notice it. And they're under the influence of these illicit drugs. I was at the corner store on San Juan, waiting for my wings from Dick's Wings. I go to the corner store to buy a Coke as I wait, because it was a quarter less, and it cost at Dick's. But the lady standing in front of me had a child, and I ignored it. I just put my head in my phone as I waited for them to get through the line. And she got him what he wanted. He was happy. And then the cashier behind the glass was handing her what she wanted. And as I looked and paid attention, I could see that it was a crack pipe and other drug paraphernalia that he was selling to her right there in front of my face. And I was just, I didn't know what to do. I was just totally flabbergasted.
Sure. Yeah.
So my question is, what is the code on these smoke shops and these corner stores selling drug paraphernalia. If I'm driving in my car and I get pulled over by JSO and I have drug paraphernalia in my car, I can go to jail for that.
Yeah.
Why can they sell it?
You know, it's a great question. I don't know that there's anybody here that can answer that question. I don't know. I am not aware that that is something that is legal to do.
Yeah.
So
we
but
gotta crack down on this.
I'll be happy to check into it.
Because at the barbershop, there was a guy at the barbershop, and he turned out to be a JSL officer. This was weeks before, but what informed my thinking was the fact that our conversation was that JSL, certain undercovers go to bars to make sure that they're following code on alcohol. Why can we make sure that we employ all the apparatus to make sure everybody's in code? That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very thoughtful questions.
Absolutely. I was going to add too on the septic tank question that the neighborhoods, we just finished Biltmore, Beverly Hills West, and then coming up is Crystal Bell and Riverview. The two neighborhoods coming on septic tank removal. All right. Who we got next here?
Oh.
Raise your hand. And
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name?
Paul.
Paul. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Yeah, I think I'm just, I know I'm just late, but I just happened, the reason I came here was because of the septic tank. And and I live right down the street on Nick Circle. And you know, the city sewer is 100 yards right across the street from me. And I was going to ask the question as to when my area may be getting city sewage, because you know septic tank, that's just, you know, it's not any good. So I was just wondering, but he was just, the gentleman I guess was just addressing that.
Yeah, let's get the information on your neighborhood and where we're talking about, and we'll get it over to Nina Sickler and we'll check on it for you.
Right, but like I said, it's the city sewage is right across the street.
I hear you. Yeah.
100 yards.
I just need the location.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you so much.
All right. All right. Any other questions, folks?
Can you expound a little bit more about the Chafee Road expansion? You mentioned that, but how far is it going to stay?
Do we know how far Chafee Road? It says, let's see. It says it's going to connect the Baldwin Trail to Cecil Commerce Center in Clay County. I don't know how far it goes. No?
I-10 to Normandy.
I-10 to Normandy. Thanks, Randy. Who else has a question for me tonight? Yes, sir.
Apologize, Dr. Polson, for not recognizing you when I came back in tonight. Affordable housing. Dr. Polson's working on this issue, but you mentioned buying the homes out. Roger Baskin, by the way.
That's right, I remember.
Mentioned buying out the homes in other areas of town because of the continual flooding. And we've gone through that here across the street. I live on Bakersfield Drive. There are about a dozen vacant lots there where FEMA bought the homes and raised them after town meetings in this very auditorium, in which some of these gentlemen were here, I'm sure. And so to get more affordable housing, I've read where you want to build on vacant lots in some of the older neighborhoods in Jacksonville. So my concern is that you would try to build on these lots when they continue to flood. And it's even going to get worse because upstream they're building another set of apartments even now that is dumping more and more water into that creek.
Well, let me just tell you, the flood mapping that we have done that made it into the 50-year resilience plan, it's a state-of-the-art map that FEMA is now looking at to possibly use because they did such a great job. You can see street to street, block to block, about where the flooding happens, at what times it would happen, and for how long it would happen, depending on how much rainfall or other issues that we have. So we are at the moment creating all of those mapping scenarios for the development community and making sure that as we proceed with zoning, but beyond that, just are talking to the development community and building out what we're going to do next. We don't want to build on those spaces. But some, some of the areas that are being built on now, they were permitted 30 years ago, right?
Yes.
So it's one of those things where you really have to be very intentional about going in and looking at what places are no longer safe to build,
Well,
and we're doing that.
of course, these lots were flooding all the time, 4 feet in the people's homes.
Are you seeing building going on there now?
No, I'm saying that, and what I've been reading is that to get more affordable housing in the city, you're want to go into older neighborhoods where there are vacant lots for whatever reason, and purchase those and then build affordable housing on them. My concern,
Only where that would be appropriate.
yes, and so that's my question. FEMA purchased lots should be excluded from that kind of building because if the sink keeps running over, you got to turn off the water.
Right.
The problem is on Will's Branch out here, the city continues to allow building upstream and is dumping it into this creek. So every year the high rise is getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
So it's nonsensical anyway. Anyway, Dr. Polson's working on that as well as others perhaps.
Chief Powers has a word to say about this.
Yeah, Mayor, so emergency preparedness falls under JFRD, and emergency preparedness helps schedule those lots to be bought by FEMA. When they are bought by FEMA, they cannot be built on again, they have to be turned into green space. So your concern about those lots that are FEMA purchased you don't have to worry about it. They can't be used again. They have to remain green space because they are a flood prone.
Thank you. I understand that, but I also understand that the new fire station down here on Lennox Avenue, which I'm glad to have because it's a mile from my home, was built on wetlands. A school, Potter's Home, tried to buy that property years ago and build on it, and they were never allowed to build on it because it was wetlands. Go and look at it. It looks like Vietnam. But the fire station's built on it now. And behind that fire station are apartments that were just built, again, on wetlands, which are supposed to be not built upon. I spent 40 years in the Environmental Quality Division, 8 years under Mayor Missouri. A tremendous time, great mayor. I'm just saying, never say never. So, but of course, I didn't intend to go in all of that.
I appreciate the point, and I share your concerns in terms of things being built on wetlands. It does happen, and sometimes we decide to override places, rules that say that we shouldn't build on places. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying to you is, what I have control over is providing as much information and working as much with the development community as I can, and through zoning, to make sure that we're building in places that make sense.
Sure.
And I'm not saying there's never going to be something you don't want. What I am saying is, you heard what Chief said about the FEMA lots. You know the answer to that question. But in terms of the rest, I just think we all have to be engaged in the process, not only of educating people about why we shouldn't build in these areas, but I think we have to be very intentional about working hand in hand with the development community to make sure that, some of them may have big investments in some of these areas. We're going to have to provide some incentives for them to want to build in other areas. And I get that, but there has to be the education process to make sure that people know that just because perhaps you can doesn't mean that you should.
Sure. A corollary to that is, if you will, I wrote some emails to the committee at City Council that's working on affordable housing with your administration. Council and other council persons, and I wrote emails, got responses from no one, but everybody's very busy. But my purpose in writing was this: one of the major problems in my mind in affordable housing across the nation is the fact that big hedge fund operations come in and buy up homes as fast as they can. Residential homes, single homes. These front people on television will give you cash for your home. They're not individuals. They're representing national companies. Over 50% of one of the zip codes in Jacksonville on the north side is owned by such companies. That's the reason you don't have affordable housing. These huge companies are coming into town. They're buying up everything they can buy, paying cash for it, charging exorbitant rents, taking those homes off the market, which are typically what first home buyers get, are the older homes. I would suggest, if it's constitutionally possible, to have a local ordinance restricting the percentage of a subdivision that can be rental units. Now, it's been proposed nationally in the Congress because they see the same problem is happening nationwide. So let's be on the front edge, get in there, pass a local ordinance that says only a certain percentage of homes in any given neighborhood or development can be rental units. It's my suggestion. Thank you.
very much. Appreciate your input.
I second that motion. Just tell them no.
Anybody else have a question or comment? Y'all are an easy group.
Maybe over here.
Well, listen, I appreciate everybody taking the time to come out here tonight. I hope you heard something that at least you didn't know and that might have interested you. And just know that, I hope you're seeing how many folks from, not only from my administration, from the council, from, our first responders. I mean, people are invested in wanting to make this city better, and they took the time, not once but twice, to come out here to make sure that they heard your concerns. So please know that this is not a one-way conversation. We want to continue to hear from you. You see the people that are here tonight. We are interested in helping you solve your problems and to solve the problems of the city. You always have better ideas than we have, so we really always want to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything that you feel like we should hear, okay? But thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.